There are three main goals of mixing cake batters: combining the ingredients into a smooth, uniform batter, forming and incorporating air cells, and developing the proper texture. This demonstration is how to prepare yellow chiffon. When looking at the recipe, when it is divided, it gives you an idea of when the ingredients will be incorporated into the batter. For the chiffon, you're going to start with your dries, including some of the sugar, and then you're going to have your water, vanilla, eggs, and oil. The recipe says to add them one by one, but by whisking them together and slowly streaming in, it helps the process. It is very important that our eggs are at room temperature. Once we finish whisking, we will have the dry ingredients sifted into the mixing bowl. We'll be using the paddle attachment, and we're going to be streaming in the liquid. By using the micro scale, it will be more accurate when we start scaling out the smaller portions: 0.25 ounces of salt, 0.5 ounces of baking powder. The dries are in the bowl. And again, we're going to use the paddle, and we will slowly stream in the liquids. When streaming in the liquids, stop it and scrape down after each addition. It would be best to stream the liquids in 3 additions. At this point, we don't want to over mix the batter. We are really just combining the liquids and getting it into a nice smooth batter that we'll be able to fold the meringue into later. As you will see, it starts out thick, and that is why we have to make sure that we are stopping the mixer and making sure that we're scraping it down. Remember to stop the mixer before we change any speeds. This is on speed 1. Later we'll switch it to speed 2 just to make sure everything is combined. In order to form a nice smooth batter, the ingredients being at room temperature and slowly combine helps this process. Again, scraping down, making sure there are no lumps in our batter. Turn the mixer up to 2 and just give it a good stir, maybe for 20 seconds, and stop the mixer. Having 2 bowls in your station, you can just leave the batter in the one and use the other one to make your meringue. Be sure that the bowl and the whip are extremely clean. Make sure there's no flour on the mixer that could fall into your meringue. The egg whites will be clean without any yolk or any fat in them. They will be at room temperature or around 80 degrees. If they are cold, they will need to be warmed up over a double boiler. Before starting this recipe, I warmed the eggs in a bowl of hot water before separating. That's a good way to get your eggs warmed up without cooking them, but warmer eggs are a little bit trickier to separate. Preparing our pans for the chiffon, we're not going to spray it at all. We're just going to put a piece of parchment in the bottom. This way, as the cake grows, it can cling to the sides. We're going to start our meringue out on speed 2, and we're going to wait until it's a little frothy. And then the important thing when making a meringue is to take the time to stream the sugar in. It takes a while for the egg whites to absorb the sugar. If the sugar is streamed in too fast, it can collapse. The majority of the time whipping the whites will be on speed 2. Halfway through, we will stop the mixer, bring it to speed 3, and continue to mix. We will be whipping the egg whites until they form soft peaks. There is a small amount of cream of tartar in the recipe that will be mixed with the sugar. The cream of tartar helps aid the stability of our meringue. This recipe has baking powder in it, but the meringue is also part of the leavening. We want to make sure it has some air that can still expand our product. So it's still a little soft. As it sits, the meringue does seem to get stiffer. So I would always err on the side of too soft because we could always re-whip. They should still be nice and shiny. Using a large spatula is the best. The spatula I am using is a little bit smaller, but when folding in, the larger spatula does a better job without overmixing. The meringue will be folded in 3 different intervals. So what we're doing here is we are cutting through the middle, going around, and folding over. When mixing, we do not want to over mix, but we got to make sure that the meringue is nicely incorporated. So the 3 different additions, making sure you don't see any white streaks and that there isn't batter left on the bottom. When you have a nice uniform batter, we will pour them into 3 prepared pans. Remember, no spray. Approximately 1 pound per cake pan. The cakes will be baked in a 340-degree oven on a parchment-lined sheet tray. Be sure it is nice and flat. As you can see, they start to grow. They're beautiful. They are a little bit softer, so as long as the cake is not jiggling, you can tell that it is done. The chiffon cakes, when we cool them, we're going to tip them upside down and leave them just on the side of the pan. This helps the cake from falling as it cools. After you tip the cake pans over, just gently put them underneath your station and let them cool. We will let them cool completely before taking them out of the pan. When they have cooled completely, which will be a while, you're going to take them off the parchment using a small offset and really pressing it firmly against the pan while spinning will release it from the side. There is no spray on here, so it will be stuck. By pressing that spatula against the edge, it will prevent you from breaking the edge of the cake or cutting into the edge of the cake. So I put it in backwards and I really push it against the side of the pan. I hit the table a little bit just to make sure it comes off. They can cool upside down or right side up. I leave the parchment on. It's up to you. We're going to wait until they're totally cool and then wrap, label with your name, chiffon, and the date, and we will put them into the freezer.